Holy guacamole, folks. This is kind of an unexpected video. We are not a tech channel by any means, but I am a closet PC gamer. I built my first PC right here almost 15 years ago. Thank you, Linus Tech Tips and Jay's 2 cents. They taught me how to build my first computer, and since then I've reused this poor abused case for two updates. I just used the same case and throw new equipment in it. Well, I spoiled myself and did another upgrade. I would say about every 4 years I upgrade a bit of the components. And this is a really, really big upgrade. So, like I said, this case is almost 15 years old. We moved houses, and so it sat in storage for over a year. It's dirty on the inside and out. And I thought, I call this my supercomputer. Apparently my CPU is 7 years old. So it's not so super anymore. So like I said, I treated myself and got some new goodies, and I'll give you a little preview of all the stuff we got. This video is probably going to be a little bit longer because I'm essentially doing a full PC build. You can click ahead or click away, whatever you want, but I'm really excited, and I think some of my fellow PC master race nerds out there will like seeing it. So I'll go through some of the components with you and kind of show you where I'm at. So I am currently using an i5 8600K, which apparently is 7 years old now. I have an aftermarket air cooler on it, and I was able to run it at ballpark 4.6 gigahertz, all cores 24/7. It worked great. I never had any blue screen crashes or anything like that. But like I said, when I went through my hardware monitor and started looking at my hardware, this was released Q4 of 2017, and it's only an i5, so it's not even the pinnacle of what came out at that time. According to User Benchmark, this is currently the 145th fastest processor out right now. So I upgraded all the way to a 14700K. So I'm going from 8th gen to 14th gen. This was released Q4 2023. I'm going from 6 cores and 6 threads to 20 cores and 28 threads. And it's not just a core count. It is also that each single core, the single core speed is 78% faster with this 14700K. And that's stock speeds. So a extremely significant upgrade in processing, the actual CPU itself. And that also, my TDP, so my thermal design power, basically how much power it'll suck from the wall at max. I'm going from 95 watts to 125 watts. So it is a more power hungry CPU, but we can do some things in the future to kind of tone it down a little bit. Also, we're going from 14 nanometer manufacturing to 10 nanometer. So it's a significant upgrade. If any of y'all are looking, the 13700K, so the 13th gen, is technically a better deal per dollar. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that CPU. It still is light years ahead of what I have. I got the 14700 because I got a good deal on it. But if you want to save ballpark $75, get a 13700K and you'll be very good to go. Next, I am using, which again at the time, and I thought this was my supercomputer. This is good memory. It's Corsair Vengeance RGB. I do not care about the RGB at all. Some of y'all do. But this is DDR4 3200 megahertz memory. And this is a 2x8 kit, so 16 gigabytes. Again, this is like my Christmas over here. I treated myself. I've gone all the way to DDR5. That is an entire generation newer memory. And this is also 6,000 mega transfers per second. It's confusing to me. Maybe y'all can explain it to me. From my understanding, for RAM, random access memory, the proper metric for speed is mega transfers per second. This is not a GPU or like a CPU. And even on this Corsair box, it says MHz, so megahertz. But like I said, to my understanding, it's mega transfers per second. And on this crucial DDR5 Pro series, it says MT/S, so mega transfers per second. It doesn't really matter. This is just under twice as fast, as well as a whole generation newer. And because it's the Pro, I can actually enable XMP on here and probably get it to about 7,200 megahertz, which would make it, or mega transfers per second, which will make it more than twice as fast. Also, this is a 32 gigabyte kit. So I'm going from 16 gigabytes DDR4 to a 32 gigabyte kit of DDR5, but wait, I bought two. So I got two. These were on sale. I paid about $80 per kit, which is insane and honestly a little bit frustrating because I got these at Blessed Buy probably 3 or 4 years ago, and it was an upgrade to my 2x4 kit, so 8 gigabytes total. I thought I was doing big things. I paid over $100 for the 16 gigabyte kit a few years ago. Now we have DDR5, and I got a 32 gigabyte kit for under $100 each. So again, huge upgrade. Let me put this old thing out the way. Next, I was using, I used to travel a lot for work, so I built, again, I'm a PC gaming nerd, so instead of buying an Xbox or a PlayStation and taking that across the country with me, I actually built a, suitcase style mini gaming PC, and I made it small enough where I could actually carry that bad boy on the plane and put it in overhead with me. All right, so I had a Asus Republic of Gamers Strix Z390i. And at the time, again, this was a very good motherboard. It's the mini or micro ATX, I can't remember which one, but I got the small form factor specifically because I was building a little mini computer. This is a great motherboard, but there's a couple issues here. One, the chipset has changed from an LGA 1150. Now we're up to LGA 1700. So the best CPU I could fit in here is ancient by today's standards. One, two, it only has two, I believe these are DCIM slots, but the RAM slots. So I could only fit a 64 gigabyte kit total in there with two individual RAM cards. I like having the option of a full ATX board. That way I could actually fit my 4 RAM cards in there. And there's a few other things like the power supply. This is still pretty good as far as like the MOSFETs itself. But the new one I'm about to show you is upgraded. The Wi-Fi is upgraded. The Bluetooth is upgraded. Again, this was a great motherboard, but we now have, I would say this is top of the line without going crazy. You've got the godlike and F1 cards, the MSI Black Series. There are better motherboards out there, but you better be using them because they're almost $1,000 nowadays. This was a little bit over $300. I got it on sale, and from the research I did, this is the bee's knees. This is the ROG Strix Z790F gaming Wi-Fi 2. The 2 is important. So the power supply on this is crazy. I think it's 16 plus 1 plus 2. This has PCIe 4.0 and it has 5 lanes. So I can put 5 M.2. I guess they're technically an SSD, but I can have 5 M.2 hard drives on here. It has Wi-Fi 7. We live in the middle of nowhere, and because I'm a closet tech geek, we have Wi-Fi 6E here. Just like the memory, Wi-Fi 7 is an entire generation. We're not talking about 10% faster. It is significantly faster. So this, I went ahead and got the Wi-Fi 7 card because it really just future-proofs me, because I would like this to last at least another 4 years before I drop another $1,000 into this machine. We have 4 RAM slots. It has the upgraded PCIe slot for the graphics card. It's basically metal reinforced to hold, you know, these GPUs now weigh like 20 pounds. So it just reinforces it. And they are heat sinks and everything on here you could ever want. I think this was a good deal. If you pay MSRP, which I think is still almost $500, don't. I got this for just over $300, and I think this will be good for a long time. This supports 12th, 13th, and 14th generation LGA 1700 processors. I'm really hoping that Intel will keep the LGA 1700 chipset for at least 15th, maybe even 16th gen. Because if that's the case, this might actually last me about 10 years. But wait, there's more. Right now, I have a 970 Evo M.2 hard drive, as well as a 1 terabyte disk drive, old school, Western Blue. They're almost free nowadays. And my very first SSD I ever bought, it's the old school one I'll show you. It's a 250 gigabyte, rectangle style SSD that I bought over 10 years ago, and that is my current boot drive. So again, I got this almost 50% off. Thanks, Amazon. This is the 990 Pro Samsung, and it's a 2 terabyte. So I'm going to make this my boot drive, and then I have a separate 970 Evo 1 terabyte that I'll use for random extra storage. And so that is a significant upgrade in memory, or storage, I should say. And I'll show y'all the CPU cooler that I have, which I think is great. There's nothing wrong with it, except for this CPU is spicy. So we need a lot of cooling. Therefore, I got the very well-known Noctua NHD15. This has been around for quite a while, and it's, without much debate, kind of sort of the best. There are other air coolers that will keep your CPU, I would say it's within margin of error. That's just my opinion. But, 1 to 5 Celsius cooler in certain circumstances. Everyone knows what this cooler is. They're worth what they cost for a reason. Noctua's been around for a while. They're great, and this is one of the best ones. I've wanted this since I built this computer. They usually have that kind of like beige and burgundy color on them. I don't know why Noctua persists doing that, but apparently they read enough comments or whatever, and they started making the black series um, not a long time ago. So this is just the NHD 15, but it's the, what do they call it? Chromax? Yeah, the Chromax Black. So it was an extra, I think, $15 to get the black one. I went ahead and just got it. So this is a hugely upgraded CPU cooler. So now I got to take this whole dang thing apart and clean the bejesus out of it because, like I said, it sat in storage for over a year and it's very, very dirty. So I'll take it apart and start cleaning, and I'll give you some little clippy clips of me doing my work. All right, so I am using this old Cooler Master HAF something or another case. It's a big metal heavy case. People on the internet like to call it the heavy AF case because it is not light. It actually stands for high airflow. But I bought it, I'd say ballpark 15 years ago. I don't even know if they still make them. They've certainly upgraded it. But it's all metal. I like the cable management that I can do with it. The entire front is mesh. So you can put a radiator in there or whatever. I'd prefer to do all air cooling. Water cooling is superior. There's zero debate. And yeah, Ellie knows. And even the new all-in-one or AIO coolers are superior as far as cooling ability. I don't want to deal with pumps or water or any of that, and they're not cheap. So I'm doing air cooling. The top will fit 220 millimeter fans or one 200 millimeter fan. I have a 200 millimeter fan, and it's awesome, and it's big, and it works well, but it's not PWM, pulse width modulation. But either way, you can't control it with a motherboard. As far as a fan curve, I like the PWM fans, and that's another reason why I upgraded my motherboard, because it has several PWM fan plugs on it. You can see here, I've actually got this old school fan controller that's poorly fitted in there because this little micro or mini ATX motherboard, I think I had like 3 or 4 fan headers on there. And we're going to be fanning this thing like crazy. So I'll go and turn this beast on its side and start the process. I've upgraded over the years to these little thumb screws. If you are a PC Master Race geek like I am, you'll probably be taking your case off quite a bit, and having to bust out a Phillips to remove those little stock screws is annoying. So I have since upgraded to these thumb screws. I got these in this now very old computer hardware kit. I'll try to find it on Amazon and put it in the description. But if you're building computers and constantly messing with stuff like we do, I would recommend getting it because you're going to lose motherboard, spacers, thumb screws, these little screws that hold the fan onto the case and all this stuff. So we always want more. And I guess I'll show you real quick. When you're air cooling, you're moving a very high volume of air through this case all the time. I used to have an indoor dog, and she's a German Shepherd Rottweiler, and they shed a lot twice a year. And so as we're moving this huge volume of air through the case, we're getting hair and dust and all kinds of stuff. This is a DataVac electric duster. Again, I'll put it in the description. Basically, this is just a blower, but it's safe for electronics because it doesn't create that static discharge that you can get from, you know, vacuums and shop vacs and stuff. I've got some 91% isopropyl alcohol to clean this poor case and the fans and everything, I've got an assortment of, in my industry, we call these tweakers. I don't know what the actual technical name is, but they're basically just small screwdrivers, because we're going to have to get in all kinds of weird places. I've got Phillips and flathead. And then I've got this tool kit. Jay's 2 Cents has a sponsor. They're called iFixit. It might actually be his company. I'm not sure. That is the name brand version. But basically, this is just an electronics screwdriver kit. So I've got this just in case there's some weird head that I can't get to. It has all the little teeny tiny bits you could ever want, and an extension if you need to get in somewhere that's deeper than what my tweakers will get to. And then also, it has all of these little plastic wedges, and I guess you call them pry bars, as well as these stainless steel ones. I don't think we're going to need most of that today, but we have it just in case. And speaking of cases, we'll open this bad boy up. I like this HAF case a lot because it has this side port that lets you put a 120 millimeter fan. And if you can see, and I'll open this up like this, this is going to be drawing fresh air directly on to my GPU. So I like, again, I'm keeping this case because it works for me and I like it a lot. So we'll go and unplug this fan here and set this to the side. And you can see that poor fan is dirty, dirty. So while I'm upgrading everything, I'll be cleaning everything. Where to start? I guess I can go start removing these hard drives. This is the very dusty SSD I told y'all about. This is an 850 Evo. I bought this over 10 years ago, so it's definitely time for an upgrade. So that guy goes out, and then this beautiful beast, Western Digital, that's what I meant to say earlier. This is a 1 terabyte disk drive. A little bit old. So we'll be upgrading that as well. I'll set them to the side. And I'm actually going to be reusing all of the old components that I'm replacing, because this is still a perfectly serviceable and usable computer. Everything that I'm replacing is actually going back into my little mini computer, which will be going into my shop. That will be powering my my laser, and y'all will definitely be seeing that. So I'll go and remove the GPU. I'll take off these power pins, all 800 of them, and remove the set screws. Got 2 of them. I'll set that to the side. And then I need to push this little tab here to release the GPU. All right. This GPU is a Gigabyte 3070 Ti. This is one of the upgrades I've made over the last few years. I got this as a used unit from Micro Center. On any PC components, it's just my opinion, I buy new as often as I can for many, many reasons. But if you're buying it open box from a place like Micro Center specifically, they actually put this in a rig and do a function test on it before they sell it to you. So I was confident that this would work well, and so far I have absolutely zero issues with it, and I saved a couple $100 when I bought it. Alrighty, now I'm going to remove a bunch of these power connectors from the motherboard and these SATA cables. So we'll go little by little and take these off. Alright, guess I can go ahead and remove my RAM as well while I'm in here. Maybe not. There we go. Alright. This is my 16 gigabyte kit, a DDR4 that will be reused in the new PC, not this one. Alright, and I'll take off these fan headers. Set that to the side. These are all the pins for the front of your case for USB and the start button and the restart button. I'll pull them off as gently as I can. Alright, now we have the motherboard power connector, and this one's kind of difficult. Alright, put that out of the way. Clean up some of this mess here so we can see a little bit better. Alright, I've got, these fans, I've got 3-pin extenders on there. So I'll go and lift this up right quick. Use my thumb screws, which I highly recommend again. Put them to the side, and I'll take this side of the case off, set it to the side, and I'll go ahead and remove the rest of these little 3-pin fan connectors. Yeah, Ellie. Get these out of the way. Put them through the slot here. Alright, I believe that should be all of them. Ellie likes gaming computers too. Alright, set this back on its side. Now I've got this fan connector out of the way. This fan connector out of the way. Alrighty. I'll go and take off this 120 millimeter fan. Give myself a little bit more room here. I got to take these all off to clean them anyways. All right. This is a Noctua fan. It's just a 120 millimeter fan, but it's an NFA 12 by 15. That 15 is specific. This is a very thin fan, and this was from my little mini computer that I built that y'all see in the future. But again, this poor thing is filthy. So I'll put this to the side to get cleaned. Now I need to take this motherboard out. So I believe this one has 4 screws. Phillips head. So there's 1. see if we can lift this out now. Yes, we can. All right. We've got that loose, and then we've got the CPU power here. I'll lift that off as gently as I can. Sweet. All right. So this is the very well-known Cooler Master heatsink / CPU cooler. I believe it's called a 912. If y'all know anything about computers, y'all know about this cooler. This cooler worked amazing. I used it on a 4900K. Let me see. This is the first CPU cooler I ever used, and it was on a 4690K that I overclocked. It cooled it very well, and then I used it on the 8600K, and it cooled it very, very well. So there's nothing wrong with it, but the Noctua is a significant upgrade. And again, all this will be reused in my little mini computer. I get that motherboard screw, other motherboard screw, and I'll set this to the side for bigger, better things down the road. I have most everything out. I need to take these fans off so I can clean them. I'm going to clean as well as I can the whole case. I'm going to take the front of the case off because I would like to try to fit a couple more intake fans on the front since I've got the room. And I can go ahead and remove that old fan controller because my new motherboard has several fan headers, as well as Noctua, as part of their kit, has a PWM splitter. So you can actually control 2 4-pin PWM fans with one fan header. So let me finish getting this taken apart, and I'll see y'all in a minute. Alrighty. While I have this case apart, I've said multiple times now, I really, really like this case. I'm going to go ahead and make a, to some people big, some people really small modification. But like I said, I want to have more fans on the front of this case to get the maximum airflow intake. I've still got this really old school hard drive shell, I guess you want to call it. And it is blocking a lot of the airflow that could come from a 120 millimeter fan. Put it right here. There are not screws or anything like that on it. It has rivets. So I'm going to drill the rivets out. I've got the majority of my components out of the case, and I'm also drilling from the bottom just here on the side. So I don't have any concern with little metal shavings getting, shorten things out or anything like that. So I'm going to drill these 4 rivets out and finally remove this useless case. So we'll see how this goes. Bye, 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 useless hardware, and hello, a lot more airflow. I'm going to go ahead and clean all these shavings up before I put it back on its side, but that was a big upgrade. See you all in a minute. I've got this thing all cleaned up. It's kind of funny, because this is so old, I actually have like patches of rust and stuff in here, but it's all just surface rust. There's nothing that's going to flake off. I have an optical drive in here that I'm not going to get rid of because I love the things, but for now, I was able to remove a few of the cables from my modular power supply because I'm not using the SSD or the disk drive anymore. So I was able to remove those SATA cables, and this should be a pretty clean install. I currently do not have a use for the optical drive, so I'm not going to put the... Yeah, I'm not going to put the SATA cable and the power connector and stuff in there, but I'm going to have it as an option for later. I mounted all the fans. The way I'm doing the airflow in this case, and this is pretty generic, I think, is I have 2 fans that are going to be drawing air in. I have 2 fans on the top that will be pulling hot air out. and this fan on the back that is also pulling hot air out. On my side panel, I do have that, I guess you want to call it a GPU fan. But it has room for another 120 millimeter fan. And I'm also going to have that pulling air in, and that's going to basically hit directly on the GPU, which we like. So I'll have 3 in, 3 out. Now, we get to go to the fun part and open up this beautiful, beautiful motherboard. Again, this is the ROG Strix Z970F Wi-Fi 2. And this is from ASUS. So, have a quick little unboxing of sorts. Let's see what else we got in here. We have a SATA cable and a couple stickers, stuff like that. SATA we don't need. Some sort of mount. I think this might be for additional stuff. This is a thermal pad for M.2, so we're going to leave that to the side because we want that. Cable management ties. This is some sort of thermal tape, I believe. And a keychain? Thanks, ASUS. And I believe this is an M.2 screw. It's very fine threaded. I guess we'll find out together. And what do we have in here? Our Wi-Fi antenna. And I'll show you something pretty cool about this later, but it is a new fancy one. And I will pull this beautiful beast out of the bag. Oh, they actually ship it with a little piece of foam on the back. So I'll lay the foam down and then the motherboard on top of the motherboard box. And now we get to do the fun and also a little bit scary part. And we're going to install the CPU and then the RAM and then the CPU cooler. We can do a little peel here. I know people like that. Oh yeah. Another peel. And another peel. And the last one, I believe. Very nice. This motherboard's pretty sweet. Nope, there's one more. All right, last one. All right. There's yet another one. They got peels all over this thing. I think this motherboard was made for YouTubers. All right. I actually think that's it this time. This board already has the I/O plate installed. So you just put it in your case and you have all your I/O right here. It has this start button here on the motherboard itself. Most motherboards don't have that, but that can be really good for troubleshooting in the assembly process. And there's also a BIOS reset here on the back, which again is not very standard, but it's really nice. If you're overclocking and making changes to the BIOS, you can flash back to basically default, which can really save your behind at times. So I will lift or push down this arm. Lift that up. Yeah, Ellie. And then lift that plate up. We can go ahead and take out this brand new CPU, which apparently, this is news to me. It doesn't matter because I have a CPU cooler, but apparently it does not come with a CPU cooler, even a factory Intel one, which is odd. And we have basic instructions. I want to double check just so I'm as certain as I can be. the processor installation instructions from the manufacturer, and they say lift that arm up, you lift the plate up, drop the CPU in, and then push the arm down. And when you push the arm down, this little plastic plate here will pop off. So, yep, 14700K. This is my first i7. Pretty fancy. So we have a little teeny tiny triangle here, and a corresponding little triangle there. So we know the correct orientation. Ooh, these are dense now. That's heavy. So we'll set gently. Set that right on there. We'll close this plate. That popped itself off. That's nice. Yeah, Ellie. And then this is always scary, but you do have to push pretty hard and get that arm under there. And that looks right to me. So that is the CPU installation. I'll put all this away. I don't know about y'all, I don't ever throw away boxes or any of the extra screws and stuff that come with these things, because I literally have a whole little plastic tote full of just all kinds of random computer stuff, and it has saved me many times. Little screws and fans and all kinds of stuff. All right, now we can go ahead and install our RAM. Read your motherboard instructions, and they will tell you exactly how and where to install your RAM. I'm using 4 sticks from 2 kits. Yeah. So it's not as important for me because I'm filling all 4 slots. I will, though, I would say the only thing like special or whatever that I'm doing, these are pretty. On the description, it said that the cooler was inspired by origami. Which, all right. Fun. All right, so I'll push those tabs down. And because I'm installing all four slots are going to be full, but still, I'm going to put one kit on slot A and then skip one and put the other one on B. So I'll have a matching kit on each slot here. And we just want to slide these in. Slot there. And push down uncomfortably hard. These things always scare me. It's very expensive and very fragile. And again, I'm going to skip one slot. And push down uncomfortably hard. Always freaks me out. All right. Those are secure. And you see when you push in, this little tab will pop back up for you. So I'll put this to the side and do kit number 2. This is my first i7, and this is also my first DDR5. And the first computer I've ever done that is going to have more than 32 gigs of RAM. So this is very exciting. I'll put this in, I guess if you want to call it slot 2. And make sure you get a nice click on each side. And the last one in slot 4. We'll push down, click, click. Man, you gotta push so hard on these. Freaks me out. But they're all installed now. So I'm going to cut for a minute because I'm going to experiment with how I want to mount this behemoth of a CPU cooler. But I'll get it basically installed and then I'll just show you the end product. Installed the CPU, the RAM. Off camera, I went ahead and installed the M.2s. I wanted to show you something. So this board is crazy nice. These are thick, solid pieces of aluminum. And got paper towel on there. Underneath here is where you'll install your M.2s. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slots to install your M.2s. Two things. Because this is a new fancy motherboard, this is a PCIe Gen 5 slot, as well as this M.2. These are going to be Gen 4. And then the M.2 that's closest to the CPU is going to be directly connected to the CPU through the PCIe lane. And again, this is Gen 5, so if you're putting it in M.2, you want to put it in the fast slot. Two, underneath these, this is just a heat sink, this piece of aluminum. Underneath that heat sink, they already have a thermal pad on there. This one had one on the motherboard itself and on the heat plate. So you have two pieces of plastic to peel off. This one only had one on top because you can put a double-sided M.2 in there. I only have a single-sided M.2, and if we read instructions, they are your friend. I found out what these little pads were. I thought it was a thermal pad, but it's actually just a little rubber pad. And you put that on this little rubber block under there. And it specifically says, install the bundled rubber for M.2 when installing a single-sided M.2 module. So you just take the tape off one side of these, and then you put it on that little rubber block. Again, take the film off of the thermal pad. Each one of these has two thermal pads. I only installed one M.2 on this one, so I only removed that one piece of tape. In the future, if I get another M.2, I'll remove that one. So that's all installed. And then I went ahead and installed the Noctua NH-D15 mounting kit. It was very simple. You get the mounting plate on the back. You stick it through, and you screw both of these other mounting mounting bars on top and screw them down. Again, I won't walk you through every single part, but read the instructions because there's very specific things we need to do. Now I'm going to clean the CPU, even though it's brand new, with 91% isopropyl alcohol. In a perfect world, you have a lint-free cloth. I use paper towels, and it works just fine. So I will gently just wipe the surface of the CPU to make sure you get any oil or anything like that off. And while I'm at it, I'll go ahead and take this little plastic cover off for the first time and rub the bottom of the CPU cooler very well. All right. And now the fun part, we get to install the included thermal paste. Again, per the instructions, it's been a debate on thermal paste, whether you put a little dot, a big dot, you smear it, whatever. You're supposed to just put a dot in the center. But for these new sockets, it specifically says here, LGA 1700, you apply 5 small dots, 4 dots about within 2 millimeters of the corners, and 1 dot 3 to 4 millimeters in diameter. Oh, excuse me. You'll put 4 about 2 millimeter diameter dots in each corner, and then 1 3 to 4 millimeter in the center. So we'll twist this guy off, and I'll try to be careful and not make a mess. We we want a 2mm. And that's not bad. I'll suck that back a little bit. Like the tip. Put this back in there. I'm not sure how much is left in here, but again, keep all this stuff. So we're installing CPU cooler in this direction. So I'll have 1 fan, 2 fan, and then my exhaust fan on the back. And you just want to place it directly on. And these 2 little spring-loaded screws here are threaded on the inside, and they're going to thread right to those. So we'll gently set it on there. And then you can use your own screwdriver. Actually, I'll use my own, but Noctua does include this extra long screwdriver to get down in there. All right, that is pretty snug. I'll give this a once over here. All right, I believe that was a success. So now I get to put the fans back on, plug my little fan headers in, and then we will throw it in the case. Alrighty, I skipped a couple steps. This wasn't really exactly a tutorial, but I believe it's done. I have to plug it in and make sure none of my wires are touching fan blades or anything like that. But I think it turned out pretty well. I'm really glad I took that cage out because, as you can see, both of these fans are just going to be dumping air into here now. I put both of the fans on the Noctua cooler. I will say as a tip, put all the mounting brackets and everything on your motherboard for the CPU. So I would get to step 4 on the Noctua instructions, but I would just get these mounting bars are installed. I would not install the cooler itself, the big heatsink, until you already got the motherboard in the case and all of your fans plugged in and all your power cables and everything. Basically, the build is more or less done, because I went ahead and did what the instructions said and put the CPU cooler on, and this CPU takes 2 8-pin power connectors. It was extremely difficult to get those power connectors in, and I went to connect the fans, and I just can't get my hands back there. So I had to rewind myself and take the CPU cooler off. Thank goodness I had an old jar of, or an old tube of thermal compound or thermal paste, because what's included in the kit is good for 1 install. I mean, I had just barely a little bit left over. So thank goodness I had another one. Got that reinstalled after I got everything all wired. The GPU is crazy simple. You literally push it in, attach these screws, and then you'll put your 2 8-pin power connectors on there as well. I didn't mention it earlier. This is an EVGA 1200 P2 Supernova power supply. It's 80 plus platinum. Even for these components, that power supply is still overkill. I'd have to do the math, but I'm guessing probably like a 750 or about 750 watt power supply would probably be okay. I only have that beast of a power supply because like 4 or 5 years ago, Micro Center had it on a huge clearance. I think I paid like $110 for it. So I got a really good deal, but it is an amazing power supply. The cable management is not perfect, but I'm pretty content with how it worked. I accidentally broke one of my fans while I was moving, I guess. And so I have to use, for now, this little, 99-cent Cooler Master special with these ugly cords, but I'll replace it with a fan that has black cable. And then this here is just an Noctua extender. It's PWM, and that is for the fan that goes on the side of the case, and I'll plug that in before I install it. But that's bringing that fresh air in right at the GPU. So I've got 1, 2, 3 intake fans, and then 1, 2, 3 exhaust fans. And both of these Noctua fans are pushing air that way. So I'm hoping that heat will get pushed into that corner and get sucked out. And that's about it. So I'm going to plug it in and really hope I don't hear any weird sounds. And if, this is pretty self-explanatory, but all of your peripherals go in the back, your keyboard. I guess I'll go ahead and show you this really cool antenna. So one of the cool things about this board is one, it has Wi-Fi 7, which is crazy. We don't even have Wi-Fi 7. So that's very nice. But the antenna it comes with is pretty cool, because usually you have to, it's a mini coax, and you got to screw these on, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. See actually where I want it. These are cool. You literally just push them on and they go and pop on. So it's not really any reason to spend any extra money on the board, but it is a handy little feature. So I'll go get this in place, and cross your fingers for me. All right, I've got all of my peripherals and antennas and everything all plugged in. So we'll hit the power button and see what happens. All right, fans sound okay. Let's see if we get to a boot screen. I guess it'd help if my monitor was on. Let's see what happens. All right, so it sees the processor, the RAM, and both my drives. All right, so it has detected a new CPU. So I need to go to setup to configure everything and actually get it going. If you've seen, Jay's 2 Cents has a very good video about it. I want to follow Intel guidelines and install the stock, or apply the stock power limits, because this Asus MCE multi-core enhancement can fry the heck out of your CPU, and I don't want that to happen. So press F1. I just need to get to the BIOS of the motherboard. Bingo, here we are. Wonderful. Mouse works. We're doing good here. So, geez, how do I adjust the DPI of this thing? The mouse is fast. I just got a new mouse with my whole little setup, and the DPI on this thing is crazy. So I'll go and enable XMP. That's good. All my fans are going good. Voltage looks all right. And it is nice and cold right now, so I believe my thermal paste is working well. And I'm going to go to advanced mode. And I need to turn multi-core enhancement off. Here you go. Right now it's on auto, let BIOS optimize. I'm going to say disable and enforce all limits. So that is basically, I just made this a stock all the stock Intel settings. So I'm going to go and save that. Usually hit F10. There you go. So I put the XMP on to speed up my RAM. And I turned off the multi-core enhancement. And we'll see what happens. Oh yeah, that's moving some air. I was worried I was gonna have to plug the HDMI directly into the motherboard because this is a 100% clean install as far as hard drives are concerned. So I didn't know if there would be any graphics cards drivers on anything, and so I didn't know if the graphics card would work at all. So we booted, but no, I've got it plugged into the let's save and exit. F10. Okay. Well, I'm hoping we get to Windows here. I changed the motherboard and the hard drives, but I looked it up, and Microsoft says that my Microsoft key is assigned to my Microsoft account. So if I can get to a spot where I can log into my Microsoft account, then it'll go ahead and download Windows for us, and we'll be good to go. Let me figure out how to get to Windows here, and I'll show you all the rest. Alrighty, so I've got the computer all installed, and everything worked like it should. Last time y'all saw me, I had issues getting Windows on, so I did a quick Google search, and because this was a fresh install, you just need another computer with an internet connection and a USB stick with a minimum of 8 gigabytes of free space, and you want that USB drive clean. You get to, you go on Google and just type in Windows installer. You go to the Windows website, and it'll guide you through how to put Windows on your USB stick. You're going to put it back in your computer, and you're going to run the UEFI through the USB stick, and Windows will automate you through the process. In my particular case, when I went to I was going through the Windows installer process. When I got to the network screen, it said that Windows needs an internet connection to finish installation. I was able to just click I don't have internet and get through the process. And the reason that happened is because my motherboard, it had the LAN drivers on the motherboard itself, but because I hadn't actually completely opened up Windows yet, it didn't install those drivers that are already on the motherboard. But the minute I got to the Windows screen, it installed those drivers automatically, and I was able to get on the internet. And because I have a genuine license and product key for my Windows, I was able to go to the account in Windows settings, and it said I didn't have a valid license yet, so I was able to click on it, and Windows will give you a prompt, and one of the options on there is I've installed new hardware recently. So I clicked that, and it thought for about 5 seconds and said, boom, you're good to go. So now we have Windows 10 Pro on here. You don't need Pro. Home is just fine. I'll run through a couple little quick things you want to do when you're starting with a fresh install. So first, I have an Asus motherboard, and so their hardware monitoring software, I suppose, is called the Armory Crate. So for whatever motherboard you have, whether it's MSI or Gigabyte, they're going to have a driver section for you. You want to go to Tools or Settings. In this case, with the Armory Crate, it was Tools. Go to your drivers and download and install all of these. And a lot of people will skip this on accident because they're not very exciting things. But There are things like your Bluetooth driver, chipset driver, LAN driver, serial I/O driver. You want to go ahead and download and get the latest version of all of these. It's very important, and it'll keep weird things from not working on your computer. Next, you want to get some CPU monitoring hardware. This particular one is CPUID hardware monitor. You can download it for free off the internet. And it simply lets you monitor basically everything that your computer has the ability to monitor. So CPU temperature, voltages, fan speed, everything like that. You want that just to validate that your CPU cooler is functioning correctly. So it's very important. Next thing, you'd want to go, in my case, I have an NVIDIA graphics card, but you want to go to NVIDIA and download, in this case, the GeForce Experience, or you can just get the drivers directly off their website. But you want to go to drivers and install your graphics card driver. Very, very important. Throughout this process, you're going to have to restart like 100 times, but that's just fine. And then downloading some CPU stress test validation type software is very useful. Cinebench, excuse me, is very, very popular and very common. And it's simply going to stress your CPU, and it's going to let you validate that everything's working well, mainly your cooler and things like that. And while you're doing that, you generally want this on half the screen and then your hardware monitor on the other half. So if the voltage or temperature gets too high for some reason, you can go and stop the benchmark and potentially save your computer. All right, so we got those. And let's see, you got drivers. Oh, Windows updates. Go to your Windows, you'll go to settings, and you'll go to updates and security. Go ahead and just download all of those. And again, it's going to take a while and it's going to restart several times, but that's getting everything in the background all ready and set to go. Then you can start downloading your antivirus, Steam, all your video games, all the fun stuff. But you need a good, clean foundation, get everything all updated, then you can start to play. While you're doing this too, you can go ahead and validate. Just make sure that your front I/O, I guess you want to call it, on your case is working, as well as your rear I/O. So I just use a USB stick and put it in each USB port. Make sure that all the right plugs are plugged in, the audio jack, the power and restart button, all that. Just make your life a little bit easier. And that is about it. My computer's running extremely well. I have a hodgepodge of just random fans that I've collected over about like 10, 15 years. I will be dropping, 150 on a whole set of Noctua fans in the future. It's not necessary. They're just a little bit quieter and can potentially cool a little bit better. I'm not spending another 150 bucks on this computer right now, but that will be a video in the future. And last thing, I had to use some, if y'all were watching, I installed my CPU cooler on my motherboard and then tried to install it into the case. That was very difficult. So I went ahead and removed the CPU cooler. That way I can install all my cables and stuff. Doing that, I had to wipe off the nice brand new Noctua thermal paste that came with the kit and use some probably like 10-year-old Corsair stuff that I just had left over. So I went ahead and spent a whopping $10 on Amazon and got the Thermal Grizzly Cryo Knot. It's actually thermal grease. It is a premium thermal paste, and even though my CPU temperatures are okay, it'll just let me sleep better at night to put a new premium thermal paste on that CPU and CPU cooler. But otherwise, I hope y'all enjoyed watching and maybe learned something. This wasn't really a tutorial per se, but hopefully y'all learned something. If I did something wrong or y'all have tips and tricks that I'm not aware of, please put them in the comments, and I'll respond to y'all. Otherwise, I'll see y'all next time. Thank you.